Hello, everybody, and welcome to our last week of Colostem. So we've gone on a long journey of what are stem cells, what are they for, where do they fit in, what do they do. We've looked at a bunch of awesome videos. We've looked at Colostem and the different aspects of your heart and your lungs and your brain, and we've listened to some amazing videos from Dr. Stefan and Dr. Anthony. And today, like promised, we've got Dr. Anthony Hofer here with us. And Doc, without further ado, I'm going to hand over to you to wow us with everything about Colostem that I have not been able to do, like only you can. So we're all very excited and very keen to enjoy the next hour or so with you. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Neil. And thanks, Vinesh, and thanks very much for the invite. And it's an absolute pleasure to sit here again in front of everybody. And
just quickly going to mute.
Yeah, background. There we go. Is that all right?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So we can kick off, Neil. Are you ready to go?
We are. Thank you very much, Doc.
All right. All right, guys. For those of you that have taken the time to join us online, thank you. It's always appreciative when people take out the time, but not everybody has the time this afternoon. And I do believe this video is being recorded. So those of you that do see it a bit later, fantastic. At least we can share the info. So I'm going to jump straight into today's presentation, which is around Colostem. And I think Neil, a lot of the members have had some information on the background of Colostem and what stem cells are. So maybe this would be a recap to a certain extent, but I've tried to include more up-to-date information, current information, to try and explain to people the value of this product. And of course, I do have my my little bottle of Colostem because I use it myself. And there's some interesting facts that are coming out of the use of Colostem. And let's just jump into it. I think it's been quite important to understand a little bit more about stem cells before we actually jump into the product itself, because when you understand the value of stem cells, you start to understand the value of the product, particularly how it is able to increase our level of stem cells in the body. And that's really what this is all about. Understanding stem cells and then understanding how the product becomes so effective in increasing our stem cells. So we want to look at today's agenda. What are we going to talk about today? And the healing miracle of stem cells and alpha lipid colostem. We want to talk about what are stem cells, where and how our bodies produce them. And we're going to obviously talk about the product, what's inside and what do the studies show. And I think this is the important thing for people, is to understand New Image has done their homework and they've done the studies to actually show that the product has an incredible potential to increase our number of stem cells. So let's have a look inside stem cells as such, and then a little bit later into the presentation, we're going to be focusing on the product itself and how it works. So just an overview here. What are stem cells? Well, basically, we've got a few different types of stem cells. We've got the embryonic stem cells from the embryo and the adult stem cells that are present in our bodies, and the majority of them, as we call them, the ASC, which is the adult stem cell. And we're going to be focusing a little bit more on these particular ones. So what are they? Essentially, they are the original cells, or what we call the immature cells, and also what we called unspecialized cells. So when you have the word stem, it stems from the original cell. Okay, so this is where the word stem cell comes from. So what do? They're responsible for primarily growth and repair of tissues and organ repair and things like that. Wound, if you cut yourself, or you destroy tissue, and the stem cells are those little amazing cells that come to the party and start repairing all those destroyed tissues and cells. For example, in neurons, which is your neural network in the brain, it's able to repair that. Cartilage, heart, pancreas, skin, blood. So they're amazing little things, these stem cells, that have the capacity to self-renew and replenish themselves, and be able to provide the repair of the system. So what are the main types? We've got the ESC, which is the embryonic stem cell. They originate from a very early embryo, and if they're normally used from about 5 days in the embryo, but it's a very controversial thing. We're not going to spend time talking too much about that. We want to focus on the adult stem cell, and these are broken down into the hematopoietic stem cells and the mesenchymal stem cells. Don't worry too much about the jargon. We're just showing you that inside the adult stem cell are two basic groups, where they're found in the bone marrow, some of them in the fat and tissues, especially the mesenchymal cell, because it differentiates into bone, cartilage, muscle, and fat cells. You also get other stem cells. They're found in smaller numbers around the body, like the brain and the blood vessels and the heart and the umbilical cord. And I know there is a time in the year where they celebrate cord blood month, and I think it's in June, if I'm not mistaken. And this is quite a thing in the medical world, where they use umbilical cord blood as well. These are adult stem cells that have been programmed to behave like embryonic stem cells. So that's the main type of stem cell and the variety of stem cells. And let's just jump into the next slide here. So where are they? Well, mainly they are including the brain, the bone marrow, blood vessels, skin, teeth, and heart. These are typically a small number of stem cells in each tissue. And where would you be without stem cells? I guess this is, in my opinion, a very, very big question. Where would you be, and do they work? Well, if they didn't work, I don't think you'd be here. So that's why we are where we are today, because of our stem cells. And an example here is, if you cut yourself, you heal. And you heal by the nature of the stem cell being able to repair that tissue. Another example is the platelets in your blood. They replace themselves every 7 days. So, can you imagine if you didn't have stem cells? We wouldn't be able to grow older at all. Another interesting one here is, if you cut out half your liver, which people have had surgery and have had to remove parts of their liver. And as you know, the liver has an incredible capacity to regrow. So how does it do that? With stem cells. This is a simple little example of an injury to the hand. One is you get the injury. Secondly, the injured tissue sends out a distress signal or a message, and that triggers the release of stem cells from the bone marrow into the bloodstream. So we get a circle of how this actually differentiates into a particular cell that's able to heal and repair that tissue. It's an incredible system of how your body is able to heal itself. And here on this screen, we can see that the adult stem cells can be in many different types of the body. You'll see that the cross-section of the bone marrow is where the stem cell comes from, but it is able to break out and become different types of stem cells around the body. It's quite incredible. To blood vessels, to bone marrow, to skin cells, to muscle cells. Quite incredible how the system works in the body. I don't really want to get into the ins and outs of the whole physiology of it, but I think just to give you an overview and to appreciate the value of what stem cells do in your body. And as you can see here, it's a very nice screen of starting on the left-hand side when you see a single stem cell that divides, and the one half of it goes up to become a specialized cell, and the other half divides into more stem cells, and those feed neurons in the brain and red blood cells and skin cells and blastocytes and all sorts. So you can see this incredible system. And I was just looking a bit earlier on today about the DNA, because I think ultimately this is where the focus of stem cells comes in, is that inside the stem cell is the DNA of the stem cell. And as the stem cell starts to change, in other words, through age, disease, and all sorts of other factors that start to affect the DNA inside the stem cell, this is the point in where things start to decline, like aging, for example.
Hi, Doc. I think you've just gone on mute there for a second.
Am I back on? There we go.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, guys. I think I must have pushed the button by mistake.
All good.
But anyway, this is where things start to go wrong, is actually in the DNA inside the stem cell. And as stem cells make copies of themselves, it's almost, I always use the example of a photocopier. When you put your copy, the original copy, into the photocopier and you make copy after copy, it starts to deteriorate. And this happens through aging, where the stem cell doesn't have the capacity to renew itself perfectly. It has an incredible capacity to renew itself, but it does change over time. And this is generally where things like disease and age and all the rest of it start to go wrong, because the original copy is not exactly the same anymore. So this is how stem cells are always related to aging, because the DNA inside the stem cell starts to deteriorate. Right. So there are very unique properties of stem cells. And of course, the most obvious one is they make copies of themselves, or they self-renew. And they have the ability to differentiate into specialized cells. There are more than 250 of these that make up our organs and tissues. And they obviously serve as the body's natural repair system. Renew and replenish, and you'll also see this information on your colostem, which is replenish, renew, and rejuvenate. I call it the 3 R's. Very, very appropriate information right on the bottle. And no other cell in the body has this natural ability to generate new types of cell types other than the stem cells. They're quite amazing. Right. And this comes from the New England Journal of Medicine. Maybe some of you guys have seen this actual slide before. And herein they say that the next important parameter in health will not be your cholesterol level or the level of oxidative stress and inflammation in the body, but the number of circulating stem cells. Now, that is actually hitting the nail on the head. So the more stem cells you have in your blood, the greater your health. So the ASC at the top is the adult stem cell, have no age barrier. And the scientists do agree that the increasing number of circulating adult stem cells is probably the single most important thing you can do to maintain optimal health. This particular slide gives us an idea of how long it takes for a particular organ or tissue to renew itself. And I always find this fascinating that, when you look at the liver, for example, can take 3 to 5 years to regrow itself completely. pancreas 4 to 5, lung 4 to 5, and the heart is the longest. Incidentally, the heart is the lowest number of stem cells. It does have them, but it is the lowest number in stem cells. This I find even more amazing is we forget as we get older how the circulating number of stem cells decline as we get older. So obviously, 35 years old, and they say the stem cell release rate drops by 45%. And at the age of 55, you've only got 50% of your circulating stem cells left. And at the age of 65, that's me, the 90% is already gone. So I've only got 10% of my stem cells still circulating in the body. So can you see from what I previously said about age, as those stem cell numbers start to decrease, so your tissues and cells and more creases on the face and joints and all sorts of things as you get older start to decline. It's because your stem cell numbers have declined hugely. So just a few other things to point out here. The heart has the least amount of stem cells than the other organs, and the least ability to regenerate itself, but it does. It just takes a lot longer. All mammals have stem cells, and to date, there's been more than 1 million stem cell transplants using bone marrow. So it gives you an idea of how many of these transplants are being done up to date. And the blood and immune forming stem cells can be used in the treatment of 80 plus diseases, including various cancers, blood, immune, and metabolic disorders like leukemia, lymphoma, and sickle cell anemia. So stem cells are very, very busy in the medical world as a means of treatment. As you can see, cancer is really becoming quite ripe at the moment, but it has an absolute necessity in how people can recover by getting more stem cells into the system. So how do we increase our supply? Now we're starting to get closer to how things work. So stem cell therapy is a very, very expensive form of therapy. It's very complicated, and we're talking about embryo and cord blood and things like that. Obviously, where new image comes into the picture here is nutritional stem cell therapy, which is, in my opinion, revolutionary. It's cost effective, and the question here is, does it work? And absolutely it works. And can nutraceuticals work to improve stem cell activity? Well, let's see. Can you help increase stem cells naturally? So this is something many people have asked me and said, well, what's the natural way to increase stem cells? So let's have a look at that. So number one is maintain a healthy diet. Exercise is obviously critically important. Quality sleep. This is vital for the health and production of stem cells. Believe it or not, intermittent fasting, which is to enhance autophagy. This is when the body eats up all those little dead cells, so you can recover quickly and you can get into a state of autophagy by intermittent fasting. It's become a very popular thing. A lot more people are talking about autophagy and how good they feel through intermittent fasting. The most obvious one, number 5, to reduce stress levels, which obviously when you reduce your stress, you protect and maintain stem cells. An obvious 2 at number 6, smoking and alcohol. Oh, cheapers, I can't tell you how many times people try and repair themselves, but they refuse to give up their cigarettes and they don't really want to reduce their alcohol. So I guess the choice is yours. It does a lot of damage. It's very obvious, but some people feel quite attached to their vices in life, I guess. Reduction of sugar is a big one. So interestingly, the sugar inhibits stem cell proliferation. Now, just so that we understand it, proliferation means to make many of. So we want to make, and we want to be able to have stem cell activity that proliferates in the body, and you get more of those stem cells distributed in the body. So sugar consumption, I think most people are starting to understand now that it's not just the sugar you put in your tea or your coffee. We're talking about a lot of foods that are present in your current diet that get converted to glucose, and glucose is sugar. So your breads and processed foods and pastas and carbohydrates all get converted into sugar. So if we've got high sugar, we've got high insulin, and this all prohibits the proliferation of stem cells and reducing their function. So just give that in mind, give that some thought, keep it in mind. If you can, and you really want to increase your stem cell activity, focus on your, focus on your diet and pay attention to your carbohydrate intake. And of course, this is where we start to come into the picture now. Your supplementation, such as Colostem, high quality omega fats. Now, remember, New Image does make their own omega-3, your vitamin D3, and resveratrol. You've got Resmax. You've got a beautiful product which also helps stem cell growth and activity. So just a word here on vitamin D3, and you know, we want the D3 with the K2 combination and in the right ratio. And guys, my advice as far as D3 is concerned, this, if you don't have it in your diet, I really suggest you consider taking it and a minimum of 5,000 IU a day. I take 10,000 a day. If you go into the sun for about 20 to 25 minutes, exposed to the sun, you are then generating about 25,000 IU just being in the sun. So if you're one of these indoor people and you never get a chance to get into the sun, I would really suggest upping your D3 as much as you can, because it's a very, very important product that everybody should be on. Actually, we're seeing more and more people very, very deficient in D3. So there we have it. We've got the list of what to do to start improving your stem cells naturally. And if you were to say to me, well, Doc, what are the types of conditions or various diseases or concerns? How would people benefit from Colostem? If we look at all the neurological conditions, as you can see there, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, MS, spinal cord injuries, stroke recovery, that's just neurological functions. So every single one of these that you're seeing on the screen right now, if you have it yourself or you have a colleague or a friend or somebody in the family that has been diagnosed with any one of these conditions, you would be a candidate for Colostem. All right. Autoimmune disorders, we're seeing a flood of autoimmune disorders. And hell, man, Colostem can certainly help with this. Orthopedic and musculoskeletal conditions, arthritis, inflammatory conditions, degenerative discs, cardiovascular and circulatory diseases, heart failure, metabolic and endocrine disorders, type 1 and type 2 diabetes, Colostem. It's got colostrum in it. All your inflammatory conditions, wound healing, and skin regeneration. So I think it forms a large percentage of these particular disorders that a lot of people are faced with and are not sure how to deal with. All right, cancer support, ED, erectile dysfunction, anti-aging, and general regeneration. Right, so we've got an entire list of potential problems that Colostem can assist with. All right, so we know all too well that colostrum on its own may influence adult stem cells by stimulating their release. And also activating stem cell differentiation, and obviously targeting stem cells to tissue for repair. So what do the studies say? Let's have a look at what we call a revolutionary stem cell enhancement therapy, which is Colostem. What do the studies show? So number one, it's a patented formula of colostrum and botanical extracts that optimize production of adult stem cells in the body. Can we prove at New Image that colostem increases stem cell activity? So we're going to point out two of our stem cell clinical trials that were published in the prestigious medical journal, the Bentham Opal Nutraceutical Journal in 2014. I just want to move this a little bit around here. And instead of going into the whole study of it, the bottom line was colostem capsules double the number of stem cells released from the bone marrow. Now that is absolutely mind-blowing. All right, doubles the number of stem cells released from the bone marrow. That's incredible. In 2011, New Image initiated a research program to establish the benefits of colostrum and other key nutrients on adult stem cells. This study in vitro, meaning in the dish, shows how colostrum alone showed significant increase in stem cell activity. So this is the part that I want to just pause on and expand on a little bit more. So the study showed how colostrum on its own was able to increase the number of stem cell activity. But the second part of it is when these key nutrients that we're going to come to in a moment were added to the colostrum, it showed significantly more stem cell increase, generally. So it wasn't just the colostrum on its own. The colostrum on its own had a certain impact on the stem cell activity. But the moment the botanical extracts were added to it, it had a significantly higher increase. That's really worth paying attention to. So doubling the number of stem cells released from the bone marrow from a nutraceutical is worth paying attention to. So there we go. Two very important points here: significantly more stem cells in the bone marrow and significantly more stem cells in the circulation, whereas it's exactly where we want it to be. So these are just overviews from the Bentham Open in the Open Nutraceuticals Journal, showing you the cell number. All right, you'll see obviously water, the alpha lipid colostrum, and colostrum on its own, showing quite a difference. All right, and the next slide is showing you the amount of proliferating cells in mouse. By the way, this was not done on humans. It was done. It was a mouse bone marrow study, which was still incredibly valuable because you can clearly see the difference between alpha lipid colostrum and the colostrum on its own. So there we have proof in the studies that colostem can certainly increase stem cell activity. So as I said earlier on, the 3 R's: repair, replenish, and renew. So just keep that in mind. That's exactly what it's designed to do. And we're just having a brief breakdown of exactly what is in colostem. So we have 200 milligrams of bovine colostrum, and that would be the raw colostrum. It's not quite the same as your 450-gram can of alpha lipid colostrum, where you've got added vitamins and minerals. We're talking about 200 milligrams of raw bovine colostrum. And obviously your skull cap and date fruit extract are 100 milligrams each. And then you'll see the turmeric, yeast, fusoidin, and L-carnosine in slightly lower milligrams. Right at the bottom, you've got a phospholipid, 10 milligram milk phospholipid complex, which is a very, very critically important part of this mix. And And it's the combination of all of this, guys, that makes this product effective. Remember, the colostrum on its own had a decent impact on stem cells. But when you add all these other herbal botanicals, it suddenly changes the impact and how much more efficient it becomes. So again, this is just an overview on what's inside it. And remember, there's obviously no added gluten, salt, artificial coloring, or preservatives. New Image doesn't do that. We don't add junk into our product. We keep it as clean as possible. So it's a very, very clean product that works. And the directions for use is 2 capsules. Remember, it is a capsule, 1 to 3 times a day. All right. I find that dose to be actually pretty effective. 2 caps 3 times a day, and I don't think you would need to exceed that particular dosage. I think that dosage is pretty good. If you find that maybe in your first week you want to take 1 3 times a day, and then on your second week you can go up to 2, but that's a good maintenance dose. 2 caps 3 times a day. I wanted to just pay attention to the turmeric part of it. The other name for turmeric, as you can see, there's curcumin or curcuma longa, and this is what I consider one of nature's best anti-inflammatories. Also has very, very strong anti-cancer effects. It's been very promising in clinical trials, how turmeric appears to have the ability to reprogram the self-destructing mechanism back into cancer cells. All right. So you'll see it plays a role in preventing or treating lung disease, brain disease, a variety of cancers, breast, brain, blood, colon, kidney, liver, pancreas, and so on. And it helps speed up recovery after surgery. Now, this is just one component that I wanted to pay attention to, because the color of the capsule, you'll see if you actually open the capsule, is that turmeric sort of yellowy color. And I really enjoy turmeric. It's proved to be a very, very good natural herb for inflammation and easing pain. So, guys, that's it today. I think we've had a good overview of what's in Colostem, and how it works. And all the herbal botanicals, by the way, are mostly all from an inflammation or anti-inflammation point of view, antimicrobial, antibacterial. They all have incredible value. And I didn't want to spend more time going into all the benefits of all the herbs. What's important here is the combination of the herbs together. This is where New Image does their homework, guys, is when you take each component individually, there will be benefits to all of it. But nature has an incredible capacity to work well with others. In other words, some herbs work more effectively together as a group than they do individually. And I hope that makes sense, because this is what makes this product so effective, is the combination of your colostrum and the carefully selected botanicals that New Image has put together. So go ahead, guys. Make sure you're on your Colostem. I love the product. It works very, very good for my shoulders and joints and all the rest of it through training. It keeps the inflammation down. It certainly gives me the edge on those inflammatory areas that are sore after workouts. So thank you very much. And Vinesh, back to you.
Thank you, Doc. If I can just jump in there, I hope you guys enjoyed this as much as I did, and it definitely was a very different perspective from me just, reading the label and kind of saying what's on there, Doc. So it was really cool to understand why those ingredients have been put together and what makes them so amazing. So thanks for that as well. I wanted to take a moment to ask if anybody has any questions. Sorry, Doc, you wanted to say?
Yeah, so I actually, at the beginning of the chat, wanted to share something with the members. Now, I told Vinesh that I have found a farm not far from us where we get our cheese and stuff from. And I was able to get these small bottles of raw colostrum. So, and I wanted to show members actually, that yellow, when you make your colostrum powder and when you mix it into a thick paste, it becomes quite a yellow, thick product. Well, this is raw colostrum. And if I pour it, you'll see how yellow it actually is. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but it's just as an extra source of us being able to chat to the people that run this farm, because they have a few outlets here around Pretoria where they do all their dairy products. But I just happened to chat to the lady about colostrum, and she said, no, we only keep it for our cows. They check the quality of the colostrum very, very carefully, and they've never really supplied it to people. So I said to her, had you ever given it to anybody just to see what it does? And she said, oh, we've had one or two recently that we've supplied them this colostrum for stomach conditions, IBS and things like that. And she said, remarkably, it's been the only product that's worked for them. So I'm not just advocating that you just go and buy yourself raw colostrum, but what I'm saying is it's nice to see it in a raw format and to see the color, and the fact that the farm is now recognizing the value of colostrum to people. And this is where we're going with everything is this is exactly what I want to see. And also sharing the case we had from one of the young 16-year-old girls that she was in hospital. This is actually one of my downline members, and I thought I would just share this very briefly, Neil.
Please do.
I think the testimonials are incredibly powerful. They are, and I've seen this over the years with so many members, where we've seen the value of a product help somebody's life. I think this is why we're in this business, is because we want to see people improve their health. And this is a story of one of my guys, Pierre, who gave a half a can he had left of his tin of colostrum to this young woman in hospital. I'm trying to establish what had happened. The family's not sharing too much information, but they didn't want this child on anything else other than what the doctors were wanting to prescribe in hospital. And you can just imagine, she was losing weight. Apparently, she did have some kind of stomach bacteria that was causing massive weight loss, and they thought she wasn't going to have too much longer on the planet. She was down to, I think, about 35 kilos. And as you can imagine, for a 16-year-old girl, not much hope in the case. Pierre gave her the can of colostrum, and within a few days, she started to recover. And she's now at home. She was in hospital for quite some time, and she's doing incredibly well, and she's putting on weight. And she said the only thing that helped her was colostrum. Now, guys, this is another case of what this product can do. So, when I sit here and I share information about it, I want you to really understand the power of what you've got in your own hands. I understand there's a business in colostrum, but behind the business are people. And behind those people, some are very, very ill, and they need the best opportunity they can get. So if it's anything that I can say today, when somebody's really struggling, try your best to offer colostrum, even Colostem in those cases. You saw all the different variations or problems people can have. You give it your best shot, guys. It is such a phenomenal product. And thanks again, Neil, and thanks again, Vinesh, for giving me an opportunity to sit here and chat to you. I hope you found some value in what was discussed today. And Neil, back to you. Thank you.
Just
Thanks
before
very much.
Doc, just
Definitely
before
found loads of value.
just before Doc goes there, Neil, I think there was a question there in the chat box from
Yes.
someone about Down syndrome. Doc, if you just want
Yes.
to take that for us, thank you so much.
The docket says,
Okay.
how can Colostem help for Down syndrome? The kids that are non-verbal can say a few words only and are very aggressive, if it does help.
Well, it's a very good question. And although I haven't had any direct cases of that myself, just based on what colostrum does in the body, I would absolutely say you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. Why not give it a shot? Give it a go. Absolutely. I would recommend it for almost anything. So if your question is, should I or shouldn't I? There's no question. I would certainly, advise prescribing it for a Down syndrome a person. And you might be pleasantly surprised. I haven't had any particular cases that I've seen myself, but human body, digestion system, uh, who knows? You might be pleasantly surprised. So, by all means, I would say go for it.
Perfect. Thanks, Doc. Any other questions before we end, guys? No, it looks like
Yes,
that's it. Doc,
hello.
thanks very much.
Sorry. There is, I'd like to just ask Doc Smiley is on about allergies, especially like, the colostrum products are dairy and I have a lot of, I have got a dairy and wheat allergy and I have quite a few patients that are dairy and wheat that
Yes.
have dairy allergies. So how do we work around using the colostrum? I mean, the colostrum products with the allergies?
Okay. So if we go backwards a little bit, first of all, where do the allergies come from? Okay. Normally, that's as a result of an imbalance in the gut and somebody being very, very sensitive or hypersensitive to certain products like dairy, for example. I found that colostrum on its own is not quite the same category as drinking milk. The makeup is very, very different. So I find the tendency for people that think they're going to have reactions on colostrum compared to milk is very, very different. And in the process, you can start off with a slightly, if you're concerned, I would start off with maybe half a scoop and see what the reaction is. But ultimately, what we're trying to do is to fix a gut. All right, colostrum is one component of the many things you can do to improve a gut. And I find the worse a gut state is, the more allergies you have. Remember, it's a highly, highly inflammatory condition that when you get the status of the gut right and you get the microbiome in the gut balanced, you find that the allergies start to disappear. So it gets back to a product. Relying on a product is one thing, but ultimately I would address this by saying we need to focus on what this person eats to reduce the allergic reaction. It is critically important. To not pay attention to the food would be stupidity. You have to pay attention to what they eat. Obviously, a product like colostrum is a supplemental product. So to expect the colostrum to do all of the work and the person is not helping themselves by watching what they're eating, and that's a different topic altogether. I'm still advocating that to help the allergies and reduce the flames, because it's an inflammatory state in the gut, I would still go ahead and keep on with the colostrum and maybe smaller doses. So it's a good question and it comes up a lot. But I don't think we can put colostrum per se in the same category as dairy. Yes, it does come from the cow, but dairy on its own, being the milk and yogurt and things like that and certain cheeses, I really find sometimes that the quality of dairy is what people react to. So I hope that answers your question.
Okay. I'd like to just share my experience because because of the dairy allergy, I was like very limited to using it. Even the colostrum did affect me. And what it does, it would give me an earache. It causes a lot of like fluid buildup in my ear.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I started the Resmax, and that was like
Yes.
absolutely like
Game changer.
a game changer for me, because like I had to attend a function, and like previously I had to take all my food with when I went, and that day like I just couldn't manage, so I drank the Resmax the day before, and I actually managed to eat. I will say I managed to cheat a lot that day, but I'm still reacting slightly, but I must say the Resmax is like absolutely brilliant.
It's really finding a way to get in the right material. Diet is critically important, and I think the fact that you were able to get results on the Resmax is fantastic. And obviously you're highly sensitive to anything dairy related. So somebody's reaction, if you find the mucus and all that typical kind of dairy reaction that you have, I would first of all start with the diet to get you in a position to be able to get onto colostrum or Resmax. Because
yes, I did. I cut out. I had the cleanest diet because I couldn't, because it was gluten and it was dairy, so I couldn't even eat store-bought spices and sauces or any of those things. I had to really just prepare everything at home. So I love to go onto the Colostem, but I also had a bit of yeast allergy and black pepper. So, but okay, I mean the turmeric. I'm a naturopath, so I love all these products. I feel so disappointed because I'm so limited to using them, because they've got such a lot of benefits in it. So I'd like to
I hear you,
that.
but I really think in a case like where you're really, really sensitive like this, and maybe the other people that share the same response to dairy, and even to colostrum in the sense, shows you how sensitive your gut is, in which case it's not the end of the planet. This is fixable.
Yes.
This is fixable, 100% fixable. And I don't want to take up too much of Neil's time on this, but I think the focus for me would be going down the route of the diet first to get the gut into a better state, because we should be able to consume good quality dairy. And I don't just mean liters of milk and bad cheese, because that in its own produces its own mucus and inflammatory response. You know that.
Yes.
So, but anyway, thank you so much for the question, because I don't think you're alone with sensitivities. I think there's a lot of people that battle with it, and we have to navigate around this.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you very much, Doctor, for a very amazing session today.
Thank you so much. Thanks for listening.
Thanks. Okay. Doc, we just have 3 more questions. The one is it good for stomach ulcers? So I'm assuming colostrum and not just Colostem, but you can answer that how you want to. And then somebody else asked about tonsil problems. What would we do there? And the other one was, what about allergies caused by through genetic reasons?
Well, that one I would debate as far as allergies are concerned, because, we're in the business of gut health, and this is where everything stems from. All the allergies, toxic reactions like in tonsils, for example. This is a cleanup scenario. This is getting rid of toxicity. And sometimes just saying that one product is going to do everything would not be true.
Yeah.
There's a lot that has to be addressed by certain things. I haven't really heard of allergies really related to genetic, although sometimes medicine can point to that, but I do believe its origin is in gut health. So can it cure tonsil problems depending on the state of the tonsil? In other words, sometimes they get so bad that they have to be removed because they create a lot of toxicity coming from the tonsil. And I would say that let's just go to that question around tonsil problems and look at how you would consume your colostrum. In other words, I've often spoken about making your mix of colostrum, and instead of just gulping it down, okay, being able to hold it in your mouth and even in your throat as much as you can and swirl it around because you want it to remain in there. Remember, the absorption here inside under your tongue is very, very strong. And this is where you want the colostrum to remain, up to 30 seconds. And keep it in your mouth before you swallow it because you activate very different things sublingually. Instead of just gulping it down, keep it in your mouth. People with gum issues, teeth infections, tonsils, all in the mouth. There's a lot of issues that come from the mouth, from, nerve issues and bacteria in the teeth. A lot of it comes from this area. And of course, the tonsils also get it. So my suggestion would be try that. Try your colostrum by swirling it around in the mouth and trying to keep it as much as you can in the area so you get the sublingual activation of all the other things that happen in the body in the response to the colostrum. Allergies caused by genetics, I don't know. I'm still convinced that allergies start in the gut. Generally, we find skin allergies, for example. If you start repairing the gut, the skin allergies start to clear up. So it's central to everything. Fix the gut, and you generally fix everything else. I hope that helps.
Correct. Yes, it does. All right. Thank you very much, Doc. And guys, thank you for joining in today. It's so nice to hear a different voice. And this is what product training is all about, really understanding how do we use the product, what is it used for, what does it do, what do I say to customers and clients, and ultimately, like Doc said, how can I just help make it better for people? So thanks, Vinesh, as well, for arranging all of this. Really appreciate. And we will see you next week, Thursday, where we kick off with our skincare range. And we're going to go delve into our skincare. And I've been listening to a lot of videos about why having colostrum in your skincare is actually really, really amazing. So we'll unpack that from next week, Thursday, for the month of April. Bye-bye, guys. Thanks. Cheers, Doc.
Bye-bye, guys. Cheers. Bye-bye.